All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast, talking college basketball season. Joining me today, somebody I spoke to back in February, and before times, before all the craziness happened. Zach Braziller of the New York Post is here. Zach, how are you?
What's up, Mike? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, and I have to say it's very interesting for me because I'm a big college basketball guy, but it's sort of weird seeing this comeback attempt to go on right now as the pandemic is surging. What's your thoughts on the sport coming back right now?
I mean, it's gonna be strange. There's no doubt. You're gonna have games canceled frequently. You're seeing it already. You just gotta be, to me, if you're a college basketball fan or someone who likes the sport, you just gotta just be happy with what you get. I mean, they created a 13 game minimum because they knew this was gonna happen. You can't just punt the season again. We missed the NCAA tournament last year, and they have to do everything they can to get to March. And look, they've already, the NCAA has already basically said we're going into a bubble, even though they use the word controlled environment. They're going to move the tournament to one area in March, and it's clear that they're going to do everything possible to have a tournament, and that means you're going to go through probably an ugly regular season. You're going to go teams. You're going to have 2-3 weeks where they don't play. You're going to have cancellations the day of games. But to me, it's important just to try to find a way to get through this year and play a season. I mean, you look at all the other sports. College football is trying it. Baseball did it. NFL is doing it. NBA is doing it. I understand college is different, but it's still a business, and they still need the money, and these kids want to play. So I think he just has to accept it's not going to be anything like a normal season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You brought up the cancellations, obviously, because right now we've seen the first week of the season, we're seeing a bunch of games get canceled. A lot of programs are on pause because of positive tests, and football itself has had this spike up in college the last couple of weeks. Do you think this could be a constant problem throughout the season where we're going to see teams like in the middle of conference season go 3 weeks without playing, and then some teams in the league have 20 games played, some have 14, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen. Like I know the one reason for optimism that a lot of people have is now that you know we're really into the holiday break, and you're not going to really have kids on campus for the next 2 months. And I do think that is something that will help. I don't know if it's how much of a difference it will make, but I do know that that is one reason they're going ahead with this season now. Is waiting till January doesn't really accomplish anything. It's either we're going to start now or you're going to wait till like March or something. And the Rick Pitino idea of May Madness, which I don't think is very realistic or something they would consider doing. So I do think there is some optimism that now that the campuses are basically empty, that maybe the positives will go down, and it'll lessen at least on these campuses. But we'll see. But yeah, you're gonna have cancellations. There's just no two ways about it. It's probably it's even different from college football, because college football you could have some players get positive and they can still play the game because there's so many players on the team and they're not all close contacts. Basketball, everyone's playing, practicing with each other, and so if someone's positive, everyone is basically a close contact, and you really can't play. So it's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take people being really safe, being extra cautious. But I do think we're gonna have a season. It's gonna be an absolutely fractured year.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And right now, I think one of the big things I'm curious about as the season goes forward with the season is obviously, I think the thing I'm curious about is just some of these like top teams that we're going to see this year, because the non-conference schedule is so wacky. I think it's going to be so hard to sort of judge these teams in terms of who does what in the non-league schedule, because I think so many of these cancellations and rapid games and schedule on the flies makes it so hard to see who really is the best team.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's going to be such a different type of season. You're going to have either no fans or very limited amount of fans. You're going to have teams, coming back and practicing for 2 or 3 days after a 2-week layoff playing a game. It's going to be, very, very different. It could lead to some strange results. It could lead to some big surprises. It's it's just going to be, like I said, I just think you have to, as you're a college basketball fan, you just have to enjoy whatever you get and kind of almost take that as gravy and just take it day by day. And like, if your team plays on a Wednesday, be happy for that game and then expect the next game to get canceled. And if you get the next game, be happy for that game. It's, to me, it's just, you just come, your expectations really have to be lowered significantly for this year.
Yeah, I'm definitely lowering my expectations, but I do want to talk a little bit about on the court stuff, and I do think it's going to be fun. I do think there's a lot of interesting teams this season. Who are some of the top teams you think could make some real noise this year?
You got the typical ones, but I think everyone's consensus top three is Villanova, Gonzaga, and Baylor. I would agree with that. We ranked Villanova number one in our preseason poll at the Post. I think Villanova's really good. They're really, the one thing that Villanova is that they even want their two championship teams. They're really deep. They could go 9 or 10 deep. They have so much talent. With you obviously have Convaleschi at the top, and and Samuels and Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and just a ton of guys with so much talent. I mean, I think they're going to be super. Baylor is really good. Gonzaga is really good. Those are kind of the teams that everyone expects. I think Texas Tech is the team that's ranked, I think, around 14, 15 is a team that's going to be very, very tough to beat. They got their two grad transfers eligible back for Club, Marcus Silva Santos. Santos, if you remember that team that made the title game 2 years ago, that was a team that was kind of built on transfers as well. That's a team I'm really high on. But to me, there's a lot of depth. There isn't. I picked number one, but I mean, I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite going into the season. I don't think there's a clear-cut Final Four favorite, honestly. And when you consider just how wacky the year it's going to be, that could create even more, chaos because of the unpredictable nature.
I'm definitely here for the chaos. It's going to be a lot of fun if that is the case. And I do think it's also fun to look at in terms of conferences. I mean, last year we saw the Big Ten was potentially getting 12 teams in the tournament. We saw the ACC was down. Like, what leagues do you think will be the most fun to keep an eye on this year?
I would probably go to Big Ten again. I think the Big Ten is just absurdly deep and really good at the top. Rutgers to me is a top 20 team. Illinois is a top 10 team. Wisconsin is very good. Michigan State will be good. The league is just absurdly deep. It's Iowa is really good. The National Player of the Year, Luke Garza, the heavy favorite to win that award. And this league is just going to be murderous rough. I think the Big 12 is very, very good. Kansas has a terrific perimeter. I mentioned Texas Tech. You have Oklahoma State's going to be dangerous with the player everyone says will be the number one pick in next year's draft, Cade Cunningham, even though they're not eligible for postseason play. The two clear to me best conference in the country will be the Big 12 and the Big 10. I think the Big East will be good. I don't think it'll be good. It won't be quite as good as it was last year. It's not at the top, although I think the potential to have 6 or 7 teams in the tournament is there when you factor into, teams like in the bottom of those 6 or 7, St. John's, maybe Seton Hall, Providence. So I think the Big East will clearly be very good. I'm not really sure what to make of the ACC. I got to see it from Carolina. They were so disappointing last year. They're depending a lot on some young guys and freshmen. So I'm not sold on North Carolina. They're probably a top 25 team, but I still have to see it. Duke is going to be good. They have a lot of good freshmen, but they're not. This isn't like Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett type freshmen. They're good freshmen. So I think Duke is good. I don't think they're an elite Duke team. I don't think they're a top 5 team. I think Virginia is probably the class of that conference. When you consider what they bring back, what they add with Sam Hauser, I can see them being a legit national title contender. But to me, there's a lot of depth. If you look around the country, there's so many good teams. I just hope we get some kind of a representative season to really see it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little local flavor. We'll start with Rutgers, who you brought up. I mean, last year they were probably going to make the tournament for the first time since 1991. Steve Pikiell's done a great job down there. Obviously, most of their games they won were at the rack, and it's going to be tough for them without the fans this year. But what do you think the landmark should be for Rutgers this year?
I mean, the base was the tournament. I mean, the team that was making the tournament last year, they returned almost everyone. They add a very, very good freshman. Um, I I think this team will make the tournament. I think they'll finish top four in the Big Ten, and I think they'll probably win a game in the tournament. You know, they don't have the home advantage of the rack, but you got to look at the other way. They struggled on the road, and now they won't be dealing with fans on the road. So while the home court advantage might be lessened, the road court disadvantage will be lessened as well. Um, I'm really on them. They're terrific defensively. Geo Baker is a great late game shot maker. I think Ron Harper Jr. is a guy who's going to only get better. I think Montez Mathis is a guy that people really don't talk about, but he's an athletic defender. He's a guy to me that has more offensive ability than we've seen. He's now going to be a junior. I really, really like him. I think the team's really good. I ranked them 21 in our preseason poll. I think they're a legit top 20 team. It's, I was talking to Rutgers the other day. It stinks for them because, you wait so long to have a team like this, and now, you're not going to look good at games. But it's going to be a really fun team to watch. I'm a big fan of their talent. I'm a big fan of their culture. I love how hard they play. I love how they defend. The one question is they weren't great offensively last year. Baker kind of bailed them out a lot late games. They only shot 31% from three as a team. So, but I do think they will get better offensively just because of everything they bring back. It's almost hard not to be. And there are high hopes for Cliff Amarui, the 4-star forward from Jersey that they added. So, to me, if you're a Rutgers fan, there's nothing but hope and excitement for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stay in the state with Seton Hall. Obviously, they were another one who got robbed last year. This team could have gone to the Final Four. Now, Miles Powell and Romero Gill graduate off the NBA. What expectations do you think we should have for Seton Hall this year?
I think they're a tournament team. In today's paper, we have our Seton Hall preview and everything wrote at it. I think this program has reached the point where they're not about one player. 2 years ago, they lost all those seniors, Desi Rodriguez, Pete Carrington, Angel Delgado, and people thought they were going to go into a rebuild. They were an NIT team. And then Miles Powell developed into a superstar, and they made the tournament, and last year they shared the league crown. I think they're going to be good. They're not going to be as good as last year. There's no replacing, they can't replace Gill or Powell or Quincy McKnight. But I think Sandro Mamukelashvili, which is quite a last name, obviously, I think he's going to be one of the best forwards in the country. He's 6'11", he's a super athlete, he's super versatile. The league coaches picked him to the first team in the preseason. He's a guy that's got all the talent in the world. It's just about now he's got to kind of have a take charge mentality. He's got to be aggressive. He can't kind of see the spotlight. But I'm high on him. They added one of the best grab transfer guards in the country in Bryce Aiken. They have some other very good pieces. I think they're a team that will finish top 5 in the Big East to make the tournament. I just think that this program's got to this point with Willard where they don't rebuild, they reload. And I think they're going to be I think they're going to be a good team this year.
Yeah, another Big East program. I also want to give out a shout out to a friend of the podcast, Troy Moriello. You talked to him on the Seeing Red podcast about St. John's. What do you think of the Red Storm this year?
To me, it's a real hard team to kind of predict. I could see them being better than expectation to make the tournament. I could see them being worse than being a free-gen IT team. It's a hard team to assess because you lose LJ Figueroa, your leading scorer, who didn't have a great year last year. There are a lot of questions. Who's going to be the go-to guy? But there is a ton of depth. Everyone loves the freshman point guard, Posh Alexander. I'd be stunned if he's not starting. Junior college forward Isaiah Moore is phenomenal. He looks like another Tariq Owens. They have a decent amount of guys returning, like Greg Williams and Julian Champagny and Marcellus Erlington and Josh Roberts. I think they have a roster better fit for Mike Anderson's style. I think their depth is going to be really important, especially this year where there are going to be times where you're playing a ton of games, where you're playing 4 games in a week. And I think that's a huge advantage they have on a team. And now, kind of like Rutgers, they developed a really good home court advantage last year. at cornerstone. Now that's going to be gone. But they also struggled on the road. And now that they're not going to have that same adversity on the road because they will be playing in front of fans and very, very, few amount of them. But my big question though is just who's going to be do they have a guy they can look to when other guys wouldn't win, on the road in tough spots? Do they have someone who's going to get you 20? I don't know. Mike Anderson doesn't think he don't need that. He likes the idea of having a bunch of different options. There are questions. Are the newcomers ready to make an impact right away? Are the guys who are back ready to take the next step? We don't know that. So it's a team that I have a hard time kind of pegging, to be honest.
Yeah, they are. The two more teams in the local area I want to get to. I was number one, UConn coming back to the Big East after the 7-year run in the American. I think they're going to be a team that can get to the tournament in this league. I think it's also good for the Big East to have UConn back.
Yeah, it's great for the league. I mean, it enhances the brand. It's great for UConn, clearly. You've really seen their recruiting explode coming back to the Big East. I think they're a tournament team. I think they'll finish top 5 in the league. I do think they could start slow, though. They're coming from the American. They're asking a lot of freshmen and young guys. The talent level they're facing is going to be way up. So I do think there is a transition and an adjustment they have to make. I don't think there's any question. The Big East is much better than the American. But I do think this is a team that will find itself. You also look at guys, Acock, their big forward, will be back, you would think, around January, maybe early February. He'll help. R.J. Cole, who sat out last year, is a terrific guard. He'll produce. James McKnight is someone who people think has NBA potential. They have a ton of talent. They're really big inside. They have depth. I think it's something that's going to be great for the league and great for the school. I think they should have a good year, and I think they're only going to get better in the years to come.
Yeah, they'll be fun to watch. And the last one, obviously, I think the big story in this area, Rick Pitino coming to Iona, looking to jumpstart that program after they had a down year a year ago. So what do you think about Pitino's chances of making something interesting happen at Iona in his first year?
I mean, look, it's going to be fascinating to watch, no doubt about it. Now, they returned 3 players. They had a million new guys. Then they went into a 14-day COVID pause that I think they're supposed to return some point at the end of this week. So I do think people's expectations at the beginning have to be low. But it's not like he's in the Big East here. He's in the MAC. I'm sure by March he'll have his team. He'll have them playing really good basketball. I'm sure they'll be a threat to win that conference tournament. I have no doubt. I went through a day of their workouts. He's so invested. He's so focused. He's so detail oriented. I mean, the guy is a Hall of Fame coach. It's great for the MAC. It's great for the area. I'm excited to see him live and see him coach. It's going to be really interesting just to see what happens there over this year and obviously in the years to come.
Yeah, it's also kind of funny how, sort of similar to Rutgers and the team is good. Now Iona fans get a Hall of Fame coach coming in. Now they can't go see him because of the COVID restrictions. Yeah,
I mean, it's just the sad reality of this year. It's just everyone's just gotta just accept it. Just be happy with watch the games on TV and be happy the games are being played and be happy with whatever we get.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely take that approach. Zach, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can you follow social media and keep up with all the college basketball content that's being put out in the New York Post?
Okay, it's the Brazil. It's NY Post. So NY Post _Z Brazil. ZBRAZILLE.
Okay, thanks, Zach. And also be sure to check out all the great college basketball preview content. I've been reading it the last couple of days. There's a lot of great stuff. Zach, thanks again.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right, there you have it. That was Zach Braziller of the New York Post talking college basketball. Up next, we're going to do our NFL picks with Joe D'Aloisio right after this.